So, Bobby, probably the number one question that we got last night, I've gotten on Twitter, it just is nonstop, is whether it's a question or a demand, kind of a comment. It's should the Ravens fire Zach Orr? Some people are just saying they just should. They're just straight up not asking, just saying go and do it. So obviously there's two ways to look at it. It's like, should the Ravens fire Zach Orr? And then there's, will the Ravens fire Zach Orr? The will is a prediction of what they will do. No, they will not fire Zach Orr. Should they? I also don't think that they should. I think that if you were to move on from Zach Orr, you have to, at 8 weeks into the season, you have to promote from within. And so everybody that's like, oh, go and get Saleh, who, by the way, is in Detroit, or go get Bill Belichick, you can't in week 8 change your defensive system.
Saleh's in Green Bay.
Green Bay. So you can't bring in somebody new, and you would have to promote from within. And instead of doing that, there's I'll get to this last. There's other ways of what you can do with coaches that are internal rather than just making him step aside. But here's 6 ways to address the defense. Doesn't mean they're going to be number 1 overnight, but you can certainly make things better. Number 1, and this is most obvious and the easiest to fix, catch the freaking ball. Catch the picks that are in your hands. Whether you're a regular starter, Nate Wiggins, whether you're an all-pro having a good game, Kyle Hamilton, whether you're a regular contributor but not a starter, Ardarius Washington, or whether you're off the bench and your coaches are using you to send a message to the starter, Eddie Jackson. The ball is in your hands. You have to corral it. Period. Point blank. Bobby, that alone, again, it's not going to solve all the issues, but you think back to the Cincinnati Bengals game. What changed it in the Ravens' favor? Marlon Humphrey's pick. He picked off Joe Burrow, who was eating and cooking, just eating the defense alive. And then the same thing happened with the momentum change, was Marlon Humphrey's pick against the Tampa Bay Bucks. Eddie Jackson catches any of those, or Kyle Hamilton comes down with it, the ball game is over. It's still terrible defense. You're giving up a ton of yards. But if you turnovers cure a lot of issues, we saw it twice already, and it could have happened yesterday. Catch the ball when they're in your hands. I don't want to hear about funks. I don't want to hear about we tried. I don't want to hear that we worked. Just catch the ball. It's not about trying. It's about doing it. That's the first and most obvious thing, Bobby, that will overcome so much of the other issues. Get the turnovers. Yes, go ahead.
One note on that. The Ravens have as a team, 5 interceptions through now 8 weeks. They could have had 5 yesterday. Okay, yeah. Maybe 3 or 4. But like, as a team, they've had 5. You just named at least 4 culprits who each could have had multiple over the course of the last month, who each could have multiple, have had multiple. And the Ravens as a team could and should be in the double-digit category in terms of takeaways, but they're not.
Right.
Just wanted to add that in there.
So number 2, again, I'm going with the obvious stuff. Get healthy. Marlon Humphrey, again, he's been the difference maker in 2 games and getting picks. Nate Wiggins still has his rookie moments, has also got to catch the ball, but you got to get healthy. Nate Wiggins out there would make a big difference over Jalen Armour-Davis, and I'm not trying to totally throw him under the bus. He just came off of IR. Arthur Mollett, I expect him to get better. He just came off of IR. So this is the most obvious and most easy second thing, get healthy, which I think they will. The third one, and this one, I don't know that people are going to like, but I just see no other option. The benching of Marcus Williams. I understand why they did it. He was not playing well. Had Eddie Jackson caught those 2 picks, the message that John Harbaugh and Zachary Orr, whatever message they were trying to send, because they were clearly trying to send a message by benching him, whatever message they were trying to send would have been like, see, Eddie Jackson, who's getting paid almost nothing compared to you, just came up with 2 picks and was the difference in the game. Because they would probably say, because he's doing whatever they're asking Marcus to do, and he's not able to do. So I don't know what exact message they were trying to send, but clearly a message was trying to be sent. But because Eddie Jackson dropped those picks, gave up touchdowns, didn't play over well, there was a backfire effect. Now Marcus Williams can say back to them, see, like it's not all on me. If I don't know that that's what they're saying. I'm sure it's not, but there was a backfire effect. Here's the reality of the situation, Bobby. You've pointed out he's being played. His cap hit is 18 million plus. I feel like this is on the coaches to make sure that their $18 million safety is on the field and playing well. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. They can maybe sprinkle in Bo Braid as people want, or Sanusi Kane. You can sprinkle it in. That's fine. But to just hand it over to either an undrafted rookie or a 7th round rookie in the middle of an already terrible pass defense, then you're just throwing them to the wolves. Like, it's just like a no-win situation for these young guys. I feel like you'd be putting them in a terrible situation. So it's figure out Marcus Williams, and that's Williams with the coaches. Whatever message was trying to be sent, it backfired right into the coaches' faces. Any thoughts before I move on to my next one?
Keep going.
Okay, number 4. Live chat. I don't even know what they're saying, but I see live chat moving quick. Okay.
It's ripping.
Number 4.
It was like an avalanche.
I need player leadership to step up. Bobby, maybe, and I will, if there's a good reason, maybe Kyle Hamilton and maybe Roquan Smith had to go do treatment. Couldn't be a plain thing because other defensive players were in there talking to the media. So it can't be that they were rushing to get out. Maybe they had to go do treatment. I don't know. But short of, if I'll just say it this way, if they left because they didn't want to talk to the media and it wasn't some extenuating circumstance like they had to get treatment or something else, then that's a poor reflection of their leadership. It is when your defense is in the darkest moments. I saw people, and I get it, they weren't the best answers. Eddie Jackson, not the best answers. You don't like hearing, oh, we're just in a funk, oh, we're just in a funk, we're just in a funk. Nobody likes to hear that. And his energy was low, all that kind of stuff. But he faced the music. Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton, along with Marlon Humphrey, who was injured though, those 2 guys are your leaders. They're your leaders. They're the player leaders. And unfortunately, coordinators aren't even allowed to be asked any questions. I would love to be able to talk to Zach Orr and all that too. But you're not taking questions. What kind of message are you sending to the other guys? Where are you? Like, it is in your darkest moment where you just gave up all these points to a team that had never even scored 20 points before meeting you. And then you're not there. Like, they could have given terrible answers, but show up. Show up for your team. So Roquan Smith has not played his best this year. Kyle Hamilton has played outstanding, but then lost that last catch. You got to be in there and show that you're the leaders of the defense. If there's questions about what we're doing, if we're faltering, we will stand up and speak with you. I would like that message to be sent by leadership. That was number 4. Go ahead, Bobby.
Watching Bradley Bozeman, former Raven, protect his quarterback yesterday when Justin Herbert was the victim of a dirty play, and Bozeman came out of nowhere and absolutely just shoved this defender. It reminded me, like, who's going to inject some life into the defense? It's been the one side of the ball that lacks. We can talk about identity and use these types of phrases and whatnot, but how about some life? Who's going to bring in some juice, some zest to this defensive side? That's been Roquan in the past, but on all 3 levels, it just has not been good enough. And I'm just wondering, who's going to be that guy to completely change around the makeup of this defense right now? Because I'm not seeing a level of enthusiasm, a level of toughness that we're used to seeing from that group. And it's really shocking and jarring coming off of last year, being that they were a complete defense. Now we know how much was lost, both personnel-wise, coaching-wise, and whatnot. But they need a little bit of an infusion right now.
Well, maybe number 5 could help that. My number 5 is make a trade Eric DeCosta, preferably for an edge rusher. I could be talked into a safety or other positions, but ideally it would be for a pass rusher. We went through the numbers at the top of the show. The amount of time that's given up on 3rd and long is the worst in over a decade. There was very little pressure on Jameis Winston yesterday. You had mentioned, will one guy really have the Roquan effect? I don't know. But I do think that you've got to go out and try. I do not want to waste Lamar Jackson prime years. I don't want to do it. And the offense has so many tools. Could they use another, I don't know, outside receiver or depth at wide receiver? You can argue that for sure. But when you got Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and these guys want more than anything to win a Super Bowl, and your biggest, clearest weakness is defense, and on defense, you're getting no pressure on opposing quarterbacks. I'm even here, Bobby. Again, it would have to be for a premier pass rusher, but if he wanted to give up something as high as a second, which is what he did for Roquan. Roquan Smith, he provided a jolt. We saw Marcus Peters. He provided a jolt. We saw Jameis Winston just now. Jameis Winston came in and provided a jolt for the Browns. These things do work. Sometimes they don't. We look at what just happened with Devontae Adams up in the Jets. That didn't work, but they also have much bigger problems. So I feel like Eric DeCosta needs to make a move. He's got to, it's
8 days away.
A week from tomorrow, right? Yes. He's got to make a trade. There's got to be a jolt. Even there's the jolt part of it, and then there's just the pass rush is not getting home. When you're allowing Jameis Winston to look like Peyton Manning back there, you got to get some pressure. And I feel like the pressure would help the secondary. Although I could be talked into another one, but he's got to make a trade. So that's not as easy as some of these other ones I've named, but I think it needs to happen. And then number 6 concerns Zachary Orr. Listen, I understand that people want to see him gone. I fully understand. I have yet to see through 8 weeks something that gives me hope that he's going to be a phenomenal coordinator, that he's going to somehow turn things around. I haven't seen anything that gives me hope. But as I said, it's more than just that. You can't go out and get a brand new defensive coordinator and change up the scheme in the middle of the season. You'd have to promote from inside. But I think what the best move, given all the context that we have right now in week 8, we can revisit this in the offseason of what to do with Zach Orr. You have got to put everything. You have to figure out a way to make him succeed. John Harbaugh made this pick. He had plenty of guys to choose from. They're all gone. Now, this in no way excuses what's going on in here, but I have seen people say, well, they should have picked one of these other guys instead. So Spencer Schultz, who was defending Zach Orr all day yesterday, which that's fine. He needs defense too. I'm not totally buying everything that Spencer was saying. I definitely think that Zach Orr is a problem.
I was doing a lot of defending too, just so everybody knows.
Yes, you were, and we are on different pages there. Obviously, they need to make those picks, but I'm just not. I just haven't seen much from Zach Orr yet, but I'm still not there on the firing bandwagon. So, but Spencer Schultz gives some context around what else is going on. So yesterday, Zach Orr's defense allowed 400 yards, and they dropped 5 picks. Denard Wilson's defense, which is in Tennessee, and he used to be the DB coach here in Baltimore, his defense allowed 5 first-half touchdowns. Anthony Weaver, who's now the DC in Miami, his defense allowed late scores to blow a lead. So same type of issues that the Ravens have had with finishing. And then Mike McDonald's defense just got drummed by Josh Allen and company, says Spencer Schultz. I think they lost 31-10 Seattle. Seattle started strong and has been going downhill. So I partly bring this up to, yes, give that context, but more than anything to remind everybody that it's not just Zach Orr, but that you lost Denard Wilson, Anthony Weaver, and Mike McDonald. So that was like an all-star cast. Now you've got one that's a head coach, 2 more that are defensive coordinators. Then you chose one. You promoted one now as a defensive coordinator. So He's drinking from the fire hose right now. And to me, if you threw him by the wayside, that to me is the equivalent of drafting a first-round quarterback, giving him 8 games, and then throwing him away. And it's like, well, that's more on you as an organization than it is on that rookie quarterback, that you didn't put him in a position to succeed. So what you have to do is you have to surround him like you would surround a rookie quarterback. And you've got to find the whole staff has to like help. The whole staff, the DBs coach, everybody, John Harbaugh, like all of it. Everybody has to rally. And that's why they brought in Dean Pease. It hasn't had much of an impact yet. But to me, that's the only option right now, Bobby. I just don't see another option. You've brought in Dean Pease. Somebody asked Jeff Zrebiec, hey, should they bring in additional voices? And Jeff's like, you can't keep just bringing in more voices. That's not going to help things. It just adds the question of who to listen to, who's in charge, and it adds to a circus. He says, if you do add, then you need to subtract. And so it's just where we are through 8 weeks. It's not realistic to throw him out and bring in somebody new. So instead, you've got to continue to rally around him. Like, it's not the best scenario. I wish there were better options. That's all you can do. Everybody's got to get behind him and help him succeed one way or another. So those are the 6 things, some being much easier than others, some more obvious than others, but those are my 6.